love Disney. And if I were a teenage girl with uncomfortable sexual appeal, Disney would love me too. I mean, that's what they do. They have a whole team dedicated to it. Find future babes, put them on TV, give them crappy shows. Little girls watch them, and Dad's fine with it, because there's no freaking way Bella Thorne is 16 years old. Unless Disney cut a deal with Mother Nature. Which is possible. Disney has a lot of money. It's That's So Raven, too. Obviously, That's So Raven was one of the earlier examples. It was about a teenage girl who had psychic powers and huge boobs. They're very subtle, the Disney Channel. Anyway, That's So Raven 2 is a sequel, which means there are 2 of these games, which means someone looked at the first one, which I have to think is just as bad as this one, and said, hey, we should make another one. That's literally the last conclusion I would have reached. So you play as Raven, apparently because that's so. Even though all you're doing is walking around, this is seriously one of the most f***ed up games I've played in a long time. I mean, the entire first chapter, seriously, is about how Raven thinks her boyfriend's messing around with her friend Chelsea, who would grow up to be super hot because Disney's team of perverts is the best in the world at what they do. But what does Raven do? Oh, she just locks her inside the school, you know, like a rational person would. So, where does it go from there? Well, if you guessed anywhere other than total boredom, I'm afraid I've got some bad news. Every level follows the same formula. Collect all 4 pieces of Raven's vision, which is apparently a physical thing that can be split into pieces. Then you find the exit, and that's almost always a tremendous pain in the ass, thanks to some unthinkably obtuse level design. I mean, just figuring out what to do sucks, which doesn't bode well for, you know, actually doing it. Just so many questionable design choices. But like, in every single platforming section, Raven can barely reach the platforms. She's always hanging by a finger, like it's f***ing Indiana Jones or something. It just boggles my mind why anyone making a game for little freaking girls would decide to design levels like that. Because it's never hard, it's just frustrating. No little girl's gonna put up with that. Look, little girls are way smarter than little boys. Now, of course, the mechanics suck too. The hit detection doesn't help. Like, sometimes it takes several jumps to actually grab a platform, even though, you know, you were clearly jumping high enough. And hey, you know what would have solved that problem? Making a game that wasn't a pain in the freaking ass to play. It's unbelievable. Like, who comes up with this stuff? And you know what's even crazier? The enemies are high school boys who punch Raven in the face. I can't tell if this is a kid's game or the Attitude Era. The presentation's a little weird too. You know, like the game actually looks okay, and it sounds about as adequate as licensed games do, but the Raven sprite just drives me crazy. I mean, she walks around with this unbelievable strut. It's like a supermodel walking down the runway would look at her and be like, man, what's that bitch's problem? Like, what is that with the hand? What, does she have an invisible tray of food? And speaking of sending the wrong messages to girls, they made the Raven sprite look nothing like Raven whatsoever. This is like Wonka sent Raven to the taffy pulling room. You know, with a licensed game, I'll be honest, the expectations are lower. Maybe they shouldn't be, but the reality is they are. This game doesn't even meet those. Like, it's never even remotely fun, it's clunky, it's too frustrating for its audience. It's got some questionable messages for its audience too. Like, seriously, punching girls in the face? It's one thing to bomb people. This made me 10 times more uncomfortable. Freaking future babes. It's That's So Raven 2, Supernatural Style, for the Game Boy Advance. This whole thing's just so uncomfortable.